Hello, everybody. My name is Poison Ducky, and remember when I said that Dark Elves were definitely my favorite elven faction? Well, I decided to give Wood Elves a try. Well, I suppose a try is a good term, and I like my monsters. And the closest thing that monsters have that Wood Elves have are one, the Forest Dragon, which is probably one of the weaker dragons in the game due to the armor, and Treeman. And Treeman just look more menacing and much more dangerous. So I went for the Treeman this time. Look, there's even like fungi, like on these little trees. But overall, a fun attempt. I do, after playing Wood Elves a little bit, I do like them more. I just always had such a, I don't know why I did that. I just always had such a sour taste in my mouth when I like think of them, mainly because of the Waywatcher spam that seems to be plaguing the online like quick play community or multiplayer community. Because I'll be honest, I just, as effective as that strategy is, it's just not fun. I know fun is objective and all that sort of stuff, but just fighting a kiting Waywatcher build is so obnoxious to me. It's just unnecessary. You feel like you're playing their game and they're not playing your game, right? It's no longer like you have to be against them. It's not very fun to me. But overall, let's get into this unit. Our army introductions. Let's go with a front line of spears. I did face them kind of the wrong direction. I'll be repositioning them shortly. Front line, let me get the unit cards back up here. Front line of Eternal Guard with shields, of course. Even though it's vampire counts and they don't have projectiles, the shields are still useful in increasing melee defense by quite a large margin. And I will have the one unit of regiment around the Winterheart Guard because this unit is unbreakable. So essentially just against a faction that has terror and fear, Unbreakable is a paramount feature in holding the line, especially with the Wood Elves. And of course, you've already seen my trees. I had one Ancient Tree Man and one actual normal Tree Man. So the Ancient Tree Man is going to have the Lore of Life attached to him, so he's going to allow to use, he's my spellcaster and a large unit. Vampire counts are very well known for having issues with giants and other such single unit entity large units. And Treemen are definitely in that category. It's like Treemen are just not, they don't deal nearly as much damage. Their melee attack is just not that high whatsoever. And their weapon damage is all right. 400, 430, 430 was it? The only, what's really good though is that they do deal magical damage. So if you ever go against something like Hex Wraiths, ethereal units in general, like a, not a corpse cart, but what are those called? The giant floating that have mortis engines. If you ever fight a mortis engine and Ancient Treeman gets their hands on it, it's dead. I'm going to have one unit of Kin, the Firebark Elders, fire resistant and fire damage, because everybody knows that any undead faction usually has pretty large weaknesses to fire. And of course, a back line of 4 units of archers. I'm going to have just 2 normal units of Glade Guard, nothing too special, but 2 units of Starfire Shaft Glade Guards. Now, these are going to have armor piercing and fire damage on their ammunition, so it's very, very useful in this matchup, especially against Blood Knights. Blood Knights do have regeneration, so they have a weakness to fire, and they have the armor, so the armor piercing projectiles will hit and stay true. 2 units of Wild Riders with shields in the forest. Again, I did bring the shields only because of the melee defense bonus. Honestly, could have gone without them in this matchup, so a little mistake on my part. Could have saved a little bit of money there. Overall, pretty standard Wood Elf build, except for obviously, I suppose the standard is Waywatcher spam, so it's a standard army build, not a standard Wood Elf build, I suppose. And my opponent on the other side is going to be the mighty Vampire Counts himself, being led by the Red Duke. Now, no mount for the Red Duke. That's interesting. Most people usually go for a mount, sort of like Undead Dragon, I believe the Red Duke can have, or a Terragast, I can't remember. I think it's Undead Dragon for Red Duke. And a very mixed army. So we can see the Sternsman, one of the best units in the game. The Tithe with their physical resistance on zombies, some Crypt Ghouls, a Crypt Horror unit, a Cairn Wraith, Crypt Ghouls, and Blood Knights with some Hounds. They have one regiment around a Hound over here, just a normal Hound, and the far right flank is going to be a Direwolf pack with Blood Knights on each flank. So 2 units of Blood Knights. I feel like My opponent almost got like one of every unit, and some extra chevrons and crypt ghouls. He must have had a little bit of money. He got one of each unit, it seems, and he got a lot of regiment renowns, interestingly enough. But 3 hounds, it's a decent setup, at least against the wood elves, because of the hounds will be able, in theory, right, be able to pressure the back line while the blood knights deal the most damage and just kill any cavalry that I have. So, even though it's an odd build, it can definitely work, and especially, like, well, Crypt Horrors will do very poorly against spears, but Crypt Ghouls, on the other hand, can deal a pretty good number on spears. And with that, my units were hidden in the left side force, so the hounds were not going to see my charge of Wild Riders, which is a very, very nice. I'm going to try to get these hounds out before the Blood Knights make it into combat. Now, I'm going to easily notice that, and I'm just going to pull back. Don't let those Blood Knights touch my Wild Riders. Now, that's pretty dangerous. You do not ever want any cavalry to get charged by Blood Knights, as they are anti-large and armor-piercing. You really, if any large units gets touched by that, that's a goodbye. Now, Wild Riders are very fast. I believe they have 85 speed, so they're practically as fast as missile cavalry, which is fantastic. And the remaining archers are going to get a few volleys in while I spread and move my back line. I'm going to move my archers a little bit more towards the left. I do see the Blood Knight cavalry, and I'm going to try to focus my, not artillery, but my archers onto them, as they are the biggest threat. Almost every single vampire count matchup I see uses it. I'm going to try to get some magic fire damage onto this Banshee. Banshee is like an interesting leader choice, been really good against Orion, I suppose, or a Gladiator, Glade Lord on foot, but overall, I don't think Banshees are just too fantastic in the Wood Elf matchup. Now, he's going to try to pressure my right line, but I do intercept him with some Eternal Guard before he makes it in, and he's going to throw this Banshee into some spears, the unbreakable ones. And I realize that I'm going to send one of my Ancient Tree Men, because he has magical damage, and along with my normal tree kin, and that will deal with the Banshee no problem, because magic damage is the bane of any ethereal unit. Now, on the left flank, it's pretty dangerous for me, as the Blood Knights are a massive, massive amount of danger to my units. I can't have them attack. He's going to try to charge into my archers. He's interesting micro on his part. He's microing his Crypt Ghouls horrors as he's getting fired up. But he does get the Dire Pack into the side of my Wild Riders. I'm going to get a charge in as well, while my Eternal Guard hold up the Blood Knights. And I'm going to use my Archer Fire to focus on them, as they are the most dangerous unit, most definitely here. Little audio issues here, but Treekin back here, we're going to get him into the Cairn Wraiths, as they do magic damage and will tear through Cairn Wraiths, even though their Treekin have like terrible damage. Now, as you can see, the Ancient Tree Men got maybe like 2 hits in the Banshee, and the Banshee's almost dead. That's how powerful magic damage is against the vampire counts. So I think Wood Elves actually have a pretty good matchup here, and you can do it, believe it or not, without Waywatcher spam. It's a little repetitive, I know. I'm going to compare everything to Waywatcher spam, but I do get a nice charge into the Blood Knights. I realize my opponent's going to heal them up with Invocation and a Heck, but I've had a really good engagement. Even though Blood Knights are really good against Wide Riders, they didn't get their charge, which is very important. Blood Knights do have a 72 charge bonus. They really rely on that to get their damage. And all over on the front line, we're doing rather well. Really well indeed. So he's going to get the Tithe and Crypt Ghouls mixed together, which is a decent combination of units to try to push through and break through my lines of spears. But it's going to prove futile, as spears are just way too good at holding the line. Too much melee defense and pretty good leadership on the Wood Elf spear units. And he's giving me ample time to actually get the value in from my archers to get some arrows and take out the Crypt Ghouls. And the Sternsmen may be an issue, as the Sternsmen are regenerative and armored and do really well against Eternal Guard. But I'm going to get a rear charge in with the Wild Riders, which is a great outcome for me. Now, one of the Dire Wolves are going to make it through and pressure my Glade Guard, but I'll send one unit of Wild Riders to defend, as you can see right here. My Ancient Treeman doing rather well. He was 1v1ing the Red Duke himself, and just a few seconds ago, I was going to go back to stopping some Cairn Wraiths, while a summoned zombie unit keeps my units busy. No, the right flank Blood Knights, I do forget to defend my line here, and right side Blood Knights do get a very nice charge into my Glade Guard and actually rout them almost immediately. Remember, 71 charge bonus. This is one of the most lethal units in the game, especially Shock Cavalry. Just great amounts of value, and essentially they just went off the radar for me. Completely forgot about the right side units, and they're going to get a nice charge in the back of my Glade Guard. Now, this is the only way my opponent can get back into the game, as essentially the only units he has left are the Sternsman, one unit of Blood Knights, and the Red Duke himself. And with what remaining archers I have, I will be firing into and trying to take out the Blood Knights and the Red Duke. And he's getting so much value from these Blood Knights. It's my mistake. I'm going to try to get a side charge into them. No, they no longer get their charge bonus. And try to hold them still while I get some more archer fire into them. And I believe I have one more spear unit over here. I'm going to use my regenerative abilities that the Ancient Treeman brings. He has Shield of Thorns to increase physical resistance and increases weapon damage, which is quite nice. And I'm going to be using healing spells to try to keep my Ancient Treeman topped off. He is getting surrounded here by Crypt Ghouls and the Tithe, along with the Red Duke. But the Ancient Treemen are sturdy pieces of oak. So that's not going to take him down anytime soon, and I'm going to be focusing my efforts on taking out these Blood Knights, as they're essentially the only thing left on the battlefield that has any threat left to me. Going to get the Firebark Elders to try to hold them down, but just too much mobility on these Blood Knights. He's going to get a nice... we're going to get a cavalry charge here on the Wild Riders, and of course the Blood Knights are going to come out on top of that, but I do have a lot of support, so Wild Riders are going to lose out in the end, losing quite heavily, but I'm going to use an Earthblade, try to get their hit points back up, heal my Ancient Treeman at the same time, and these Cairn Wraiths are finally going to fall to the magic damage that I hold. Because the Blood Knights did charge into my Wild Riders back sidewise, their back is exposed to my archers, and their shields will no longer be useful. And with that, they'll actually crumble. The archer fire was too much, especially the fire damage archer fire. Very good in this matchup. We should bring a lot of those in this matchup, actually. I should have done like 5 units of that. But overall, pretty nice. Ancient Treeman going to hold his own. Remember, I did say vampires have a really hard time dealing with just large units overall. And it's just going to be a tree smash. Can't deal with the Ancient Treeman. Of course, they don't deal that much damage themselves, but if they... even over time, they'll get some pretty nice value. And I believe in the next patch, we're going to get a buff for them. So overall, really nice. Well played to my opponent too. Blood Knights are so dangerous. Every time, they scare me. Blood Knights are probably the scariest unit to see in your back line. You can't beat them with Cav unless it's like Demigryphs with Halberds. So overall, did really well. 128 kills on one unit. I did catch one Blood Knight unit, which is really nice. But I think the MVP on my team was the Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts. They just fire damage, armor piercing, can't really deal with that kind of pressure. And of course, the Wild Riders, 83 kills, 54, really nice. And Treekin have very low melee attack, but very high melee defense, so they're not very well known for dealing out the damage. But if you throw Treekin against Cairn Wraiths, any ethereal unit, Treekin will have no problem dealing with that, especially with their magic damage. And Treeman, he did get one chevron there. Treeman and Ancient Treeman combo, it's okay. It's definitely not the most, like, obviously mid-max build you can do. But overall, I'm pretty happy. Eternal Guard. I'm used to Dread Spears, and Dread Spears are awful. Dread Spears are so much worse than Eternal Guard. Eternal Guard have armor piercing, too. Like, goddamn. Not only that, the Hellbrun are Poison Spearmen, but I'd much rather have an Unbreakable Spearman over a Poison Spearman, especially if you want to focus on holding the line. The Poison Spearmen are very good against supporting other large units, while this is just holding the line. Winterheart Guards are the way to go. Overall, I'm pretty happy. Now let's go into some builds for the not the vampires, but I was going to say Vampire Coast, for the normal vampire counts, to try to beat Wood Elves. So let's just put Wood Elves here so we know what we're versing against. So what would you need? What kind of lord do you need in this matchup? So there's a lot of air power here. I'll give you a standard build, and I'll give you a counterpick build for the Wood Elves. So for a standard build, I definitely want to go a Red Duke is actually a really great choice here. And I want to put him on a Hellsteed, as he's one of the better duelists in the game, especially with his ability. Where is it? El Sif. minus 48 speed, minus 22 physical resistance, and melee defense. Really good at dueling other lords. It's practically a Hunter of Champions, if you think about it. So get those. Don't really need any other spells other than Raise Dead and Dance Macabre, along with Invocation to Heck. That's really all the spells you need, and that's your leadership right there. What else could you use in this kind of matchup? You really don't need any of the rest of the heroes. If you really want to, you can bring a Necromancer, and he can be a mana battery for you. Where is his ability? No, you don't need that. Or that. He hasn't... What's this? There, the Forbidden Rod. What you can do is you bring a only 360 Necromancer, get Forbidden Rod, and he'll be a mana battery. He'll just hurt himself. Every 90 seconds, he'll give you more and more Winds of Magic, so you can spam out Invocation of Nehek along with the Raise Dead. And maybe if you... 7 times, yeah. So that's a pretty common thing you get to see. And so bring him if you want to. And I really, against the Wood Elves, I really like a front line of zombies. Zombies are just fantastic. They just hold the line for about what feels like years. 5 zombies should definitely do. And what I like to bring next is some Graveguard. 4 units of Graveguard. That's so much pressure for the Wood Elf opponent to try to deal with. The 5 units of zombies will, if your opponent is not the smartest, they'll fire arrows into this and waste their ammunition. Zombies will take that with no doubt. This is only 400, 600 gold worth, and you already have so many units on the field. And the Graveguard, armored and anti-infantry, with no armor-piercing values, but Wood Elves don't have armor in their infantry, so it's a really good matchup in this case. Now, if you would like, you can always bring the Stalkers, the Königstein Stalkers, to bring some poison into your build. But I'm not. We'll leave that to the end to see how many funds we have left. Now, overall, I think 2 Blood Knights can't go wrong. Blood Knights, they've got the frenzy, they've got the missile resistance needed. They're just one of the best units on the vampire roster, especially with the Invocation of Nehek. Very powerful. We have a little bit of funds left, and how shall we? I think 2 Direwolves to try to pressure the back line, and 2 Fellbats. We have some funds left. What else can we bring? I think we do have enough money for the Skeleton Warriors to apply the poison just in case you need to catch some units. And I think that should be good. We have 500 more funds, so that can bring in another unit. Maybe what we can do here is take out the Tithe, bring in the Feasters on the Dusk, get some stock in here. And Feasters in the Dust should do rather well here. 700, or I should bring some Black Knights. We already have a lot of backline pressure here. So I want to actually take out the Tithe and bring in the Feasters of the Dusk and add some chevrons to the zombies. Is that enough? There. There you go. Add some chevrons to zombies, make them last like 1 second longer. It only increases leadership. Overall, I think this is a pretty decent build against the Wood Elves. Very high number, very high power with the Blood Knights, using the Graveguard as a front line and as the Hammer and Anvil, and Bats to disrupt the Archers, and just in case they have Way Watchers. I think this will do rather well. The only you just make sure don't charge into Wild Riders. Don't get charged in the back by Wild Riders for the Blood Knights. Make sure you get the charge on them. You'll do fine. This is a pretty decent build, and I like it. Now, another strategy that Wood Elves like to do is the Fly Air Core, where they go a Glady on a Forest Dragon. They get a ton of Hawk Riders. They shoot you down. This build will actually do pretty decent against that, mainly because they don't have enough arrows to kill your army. They may snipe down your Red Duke, but you're going to kill their ground troops and force them to land eventually. So this build will definitely work against an air-focused Wood Elves build, but a very common tactic is don't bring... You can actually... I would keep this core here. And let's take the chevrons off. Keep this core and go with the Vargeist spam. Now, I believe, what's the difference between this one causes terror and this one gets Vanguard deployment while Frenzied? I don't think it's worth it. The Exo 300 is not worth it. So bring 3 units of Vargeists, 2 units of Fellbats. And I actually don't think you need it on a zombie dragon. Actually, I think you go 4 units of Argeist. 4 units of Argeist, 2 units of Fellbats, and to round it all out, maybe a little bit more chaff, bring back the Tithe, and have 900, bring some Spears in. You know, I could even go, I could definitely go more expensive there. I have enough to get the Feasters back in here. I already have the corners. There's a 900. The Sternsmen are very nice. Maybe I should just get that. Yeah, the Sternsmen. Can't forget the Sternsmen. And I think this is... So, when the Wood Elves go very, very air-focused, the Vargeist build with Fellbats and the Red Duke to... If they have a Glady on a dragon, use Elsif, reduce their speed by 48%, catch that dragon, kill it, and push their backline with the Vargeist. Sorry about that. And that's how you stop air spam. So this is a read kind of based build. It'll still work on a normal Wood Elf build, but I think the previous build would be much more balanced. But if you think you're just, maybe you're having a really good read and you're just like, I just really think he's going to go air spam, try out this variation of the Vampire count. I'm not sure why the balance of power is so much in my opponent's favor, AI's favor here. Kind of odd if you think of it. I guess maybe the Necromancer just does absolutely nothing. But yeah, I think that's how you do it. So guys, if you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe if you want more. I hope you liked my little army suggestion of how to deal with Wood Elves, especially as the Vampire counts. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later.